just about to get started. We're on Facebook Live at Health and Bliss for Life. And then we're on Instagram Live at My Pelvic Floor Muscles. So this is super exciting.
Super exciting. Yes. So we are going to be talking about all things pelvic floor with Jeanice Mitchell. And I almost always call her Jeanice Miller because I have known her since we were 16 years old.
Yes.
And we both ended up going into physical therapy, and then Jeanice has really led the way and has been helping women around the world, really, because her work is translated into 3 languages now, with more on the way, with pelvic floor issues. Yes. And I'm so very impressed with your work, with what you're doing in the world, and you are in for a real treat today, learning more about the pelvic floor. So thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm really excited and I'm nervous. This is my first time on anything live. So.
She's a master teacher, so you're in really good hands. So tell us a little bit for everyone who's watching more about the pelvic floor.
Yes. So you may have heard pelvic floor muscles. What are they? Where are they? And we're going to give you just a little overview. So basically, if you can visualize your pelvic floor, basically your pelvis is like a bowl, okay? So the bones form the outside, the rim and the sides of the bowl, and then your pelvic floor muscles form the base or the bottom of that bowl. So it's very important for this bowl to do some jobs. So it has 4 basic jobs,
yes.
Okay? So number 1 is support. So it needs to support the organs that sit on them.
Because
okay?
literally everything,
Yes.
everything, I'm putting this, everything in the body rests on these muscles.
Yes, and so you have your pelvic organs there. You have your bladder, uterus, and rectum that are there. Oh, and so we've got to support those, and then also you have above them your intestines, and we go up, right?
Yes.
So this is the base of your pelvis.
Yes.
All right. So that's job number 1. Just like our other muscles in our bodies have jobs, the pelvic floor has 4 basic jobs. Okay. So support, and then the second job is called sphincteric. So sphincteric is basically squeeze. Okay. So if you can visualize those 3 organs, you have the bladder, the uterus, and the rectum. And each one of those organs has a canal that exits the body. Okay, so the bladder, that's the urethral canal, and that's where your urine exits the body. And then you have the uterus for sex and childbirth, and you have the rectum, and that's where stool or solid waste exits the body. So the pelvic floor muscles control that outlet. And so they need to stay tightly squeezed when we want them to keep urine and fecal matter, stool inside the body. But then we
like
also,
when you're jumping on a trampoline with your kids.
Yes, we don't want anything to come out. But then we need them. They must relax and open when we're urinating or having a bowel movement, because that's waste matter that needs to come out of the body. It can't stay in the body, right? So we need them to be coordinated to do that. They also have, the third role is the sexual role, okay? So,
sorry.
I know. No, I thought, like, am I just rotating that way?
We've got some rotating bar stools here.
So the sexual function, so they need to be able to be relaxed so the entry is painless, but then they also need to be active during thrusting and during orgasm for sexual satisfaction, sensation, tone, and blood flow, okay? And then the 4th role is stability. So they need to work with the muscles in the deep abdominal muscles, the deep low back muscles, and the diaphragm. It's kind of like a barrel or a canister, right? So we need to support and keep everything tight and working and stable there.
That is a great explanation.
So those are the 4 jobs that we need them to do.
Yeah, and sometimes they become imbalanced, or they have a poor coordination, if you will, or poor. In physical therapy, we talk a lot about the length-tension relationship of muscles. So if something is overstretched or has too much pressure, it has a hard time working.
Yes.
So this happens a lot, especially with women. Childbearing definitely can take a toll on our pelvic floor.
Yes, yes, exactly. So 4 other elements of a healthy pelvic floor. So we went over the 4 jobs.
4 jobs.
Then let's go over what 4 elements does a healthy pelvic floor muscles, how do we know if they're healthy? So number 1, they need to correctly contract. So just like your hand, we need to correctly squeeze, right?
Right.
And over 40% of people aren't correctly squeezing.
Yeah.
And so they may actually be injuring yourselves by straining or bearing down. So we need to make sure that you find the tips and learn how to correctly squeeze.
So when they incorrectly squeeze, instead of like lifting up like an elevator, then they're more bearing down.
That's the biggest concern, is bearing down. And then there's also compensation, where people are squeezing their knees together and squeezing their butt cheeks and squeezing their stomach. And so we need, in training the muscle, we want to keep the other surrounding muscles quiet so that we can isolate and retrain the pelvic floor. Okay? But then we do need to progress to coordination with those other muscles, because we need the pelvic floor to be active at the right time. So basically the 4 jobs, we have correctly contract, completely let go or release, like during urination or bowel movements. And then they need to be active at the right time. So during trampoline jumping, or during running, or during orgasm, we need active pelvic floor muscles.
Right.
And then relax at the right times.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a couple of issues that we see a lot in the physical therapy world are pain in the pelvic floor. You and I have talked a lot about that. And then and incontinence. So these are some things that will show up and really impact our day-to-day life.
And that many people think that it's just normal, or my mom had it, my grandma had it, it's just part of having babies.
Right.
Or I'm having pain, but I'm embarrassed to talk about it. I don't know who to talk about. I don't know if it's normal or not, but I'm embarrassed.
Yeah, and Jeanice and I have talked about this. I've as a newlywed, like over 20-something years ago, I had a lot of pain in my pelvic floor with intimacy, and it's very common and not talked about a lot. And ironically, they'll put you on birth control, which I was on birth control when I got married, and that can both decrease your libido and increase your inflammatory markers and make intimate relationships really painful. And there's not a lot of people necessarily sitting around their coffee house talking about it.
Right.
So we want to give it a voice.
Yes, I think you're starting to see this growing wave, though, of people becoming aware. And so we just want to help share hope.
Yes. So if that's the case, and if that speaks to you, there are solutions. So maybe
other resources.
Yeah, you can tell us about some of those. Like what's out there if you have those kind of problems.
Yeah. Well,
we're going totally off script.
There's an awesome film that was just released called Tightly Wound.
Oh, wow.
It's on heyiris.com. It's an amazing film on vaginismus, which is pain with intercourse, or pain with
Tightly Wound.
Tightly Wound. So check that out. That's a great resource. And we can talk more in the future about more resources.
Okay, great. That's one. But there are things that we can do to help relax our pelvic floor.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I'm going to be releasing, I think later today, a little do-it-yourself video on perineal massage. It's super homemade.
This should be interesting.
Very
interesting.
But basically, we're talking about how to massage the perineum, which the perineum is that smooth area of skin in between the vaginal opening and the rectal opening. And that's a huge area that we can access, where the pelvic floor muscles are, and that we can help to massage, and that can help decrease tearing during labor and delivery. It can help with pain, and reduction of muscle tension and tightness. So if you're someone that has a difficult time letting go and the muscles aren't doing what you tell them to do, massage is a great technique. Just like other muscles in the body, right? Like if you're tight here, we're gonna stretch, we're gonna massage, we're gonna do postural things.
Yes.
So same concept.
Same concept with the pelvic floor. And that is something, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because if you can think about how you treat another muscle when it's injured, the same concepts apply to the muscles of the pelvic floor. So it's not rocket science. It's just something that doesn't get a lot of attention. But now that I feel like as women's issues, and not just women, because this affects men and children, but women's issues, especially women, have a harder time with this, I think, because of childbirth.
Right, it's more prevalent.
It's more prevalent. You know, they're getting more attention and getting a louder voice, so we're happy to continue.
Yes,
okay, now I'll ask you the real questions. Okay, so constipation is one other thing that is pretty common, because we're going to talk about the squatty potty as promised. How prevalent is constipation?
So in the U.S., over 10% of children have constipation. So that's over 7.5 million children out there that have constipation. Over 16% of adults.
Wow.
So where's my statistic there?
Yeah.
That's over 37.5 million people that have constipation, adult-wise. And then in seniors over age 65, you have 33% that have constipation, and that's over 15 million people.
We were kind of
huge.
talking about this before we went live today. You know, on Health and Bliss, we talk a lot about the importance of a good diet and healthy magnesium levels, which is also something needed to be able to relax and have good, it's like a chill pill, good bowel movements. But then our toilet position is something from a biomechanical perspective that really impacts us.
Yes.
Or not.
Exactly. We want one kind of impact, we don't want the other kind of impact. No fecal impact.
Right.
So there was a nice little article that I was reviewing for this, and I'm going to pull out my goniometer. So a goniometer is a tool that physical therapists use to measure joint range of motion and progress. And so it's something that's very comfortable and familiar.
Yes, I'll try to turn sideways for your...
Yes, okay. So basically this study was comparing 3 toileting positions and the impact of them on the ability for stool to the ease of bowel movements and how much pressure, how much valsalva it took to...
how much you have to bear down.
How much you have to bear down. So basically we were comparing 90 degrees here.
Yep.
And then we're comparing 60 degrees. And then they were comparing 22.5 degrees. So she's not even there, right? Okay, so that's a super squatty position.
A super squat.
And so this article showed that there wasn't that much of a difference between 60 and 90.
Yeah.
But when you got into that extreme squatty position, that 22.5, there was a significant reduction in the straining to have a bowel movement. It was easier. And so I'll go over, basically in that position, well, let's go over the pelvic floor muscles again. The rectum is where the stool is held or stored.
Yeah.
Okay? And so the pelvic floor muscles help to close off the opening of the rectum, but there's also a muscle that slings around the rectum to kind of pull it forward, called the anorectal angle. And so if you think about this angle being like a garden hose, and if you kink that garden hose, that's keeping it closed. And so this muscle
push down.
This muscle is kinking that rectum to help to keep it closed. But the squatting position helps to open up that angle and release that kink so that the stool can come out what we want it to.
Yeah, and I really think about a couple things. One, indigenous cultures have always squatted.
They didn't have toilets.
They didn't have toilets, so that's something that modern life is dealing with, the repercussions of, and we've talked a little bit about some of the health issues that can result. But you're also giving your pelvic floor, I mean, it's like mixed messages. You're bearing down, saying, let me out, and your pelvic floor is in a position that's saying, hold it in. So it's really confusing. So, you know, being able to get in that right angle. And a squatty potty is something that can help. Now,
we're gonna pull it up.
We might need a bigger one now that we know the angle needs to be more, but this is what a squatty potty looks like, and it goes right at the base of your toilet, and we have them in almost every bathroom in our house now.
And our clinics. We have
them in our clinics. Yes. I've wanted to give them away to doctors, but I didn't know.
I think that might be adorable.
With a little logo on it.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it.
So, it's just a really great thing, but if you get a pelvic floor that is coordinated and relaxed, because we talked about how it can help, you know, we're making a connection with lifestyle choices that keep your pelvic floor healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have steaming up the bedroom. Let's talk
Yes,
about that.
okay. So in terms of sexual dysfunction, about 40% of women have sexual dysfunction. I don't have the actual number of what that would be, but it's
Yes.
millions of people, and that's
Yes.
just in the US. So it's
Yeah.
probably billions worldwide.
Yeah.
And then, so 40% of women and 30% of men have some type of sexual dysfunction. So it's huge.
Wow.
There's a lot of different factors that can cause sexual dysfunction, but one huge factor are the pelvic floor muscles. And so with constipation and straining, when you are straining to have a bowel movement, you are pushing down on that hammock, okay, that floor of the pelvis, pushing down, okay? And so that's gonna weaken it and stretch it out over time, and that's not healthy for it, okay?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a
It
domino
likes that
effect.
length tension relationship we
Mhm.
talked about.
Exactly. So a domino effect. If we with constipation, if we're eliminating constipation and the stool is coming out smoothly, then the pelvic floor muscles aren't being strained, and then they're happy, hopefully in the bedroom. We can't guarantee that.
Right.
We can't guarantee that without constipation you
Yeah.
won't have bedroom issues, but there is a correlation between pelvic health.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I also wanted to highlight something else. If your pelvic floor is weak and you're having incontinence issues, do exercises really help?
They really, really do
They
help.
really?
Yes.
And how quickly?
So I don't have like a research study that can say, okay, exactly this amount of reps with this many sessions can.
But you've seen women for 18 years, so you have a pretty good
From a personal
idea.
experience, I can say within a week or two,
Yeah.
if you're doing them correctly and you have some, I'm a therapist, so I'm helping my patients to make sure that they're doing them correctly, and we use different tools also
Yes.
in therapy to help them.
Yeah.
So I would say within a week or two, you can see some improvements.
Yes. Yes.
And then let's go back to urinary issues during sexual dysfunction. So
Yes.
a lot of times, women especially are afraid of leaking during sex, okay? And so stress incontinence is basically leakage when the bladder has stress on it,
Yeah.
okay? And so during the thrusting motion of intercourse, the pelvic floor muscles need to be coordinated to help close off that bladder outlet. But it is possible to have leakage during the thrusting, which is called stress incontinence, or you can have leakage during orgasm, which is urge incontinence.
Oh, interesting.
So basically, and then also, is it comfortable to have intercourse with a full bladder? Is it comfortable to have to feel like you need to go to the bathroom during the middle of intercourse? No. Is
Right.
it comfortable to have a full rectum?
Right.
No.
No.
Is it comfortable to have bloating and gas? No.
Yeah.
So we need our bowel and bladder to be healthy to help with sexual health.
Yeah, wow. You have really given so much good information. Thank you.
Yes, such
so
a pleasure.
much.
Such a pleasure.
A couple of things. Where can people find out more about your work?
Well, there's a few ways. So our website, mypfm.com, so it's my pelvic floor muscles, so mypfm.com is a great landing place. And then we're on social media. So our social media username is at my pelvic floor muscles. And we have a YouTube channel, and we just released a new video today on stress incontinence. It's about 13 minutes, and it's called Sure It's Just Sweat. All right, so basically, are you sure when you're exercising? Are you sure that that's just sweat? And so we go over what it is and how to some tips and so forth. So YouTube channel mypfm.com,
Yes.
or social media at my pelvic floor muscles.
Wow, and I use your videos with all of my patients. And if you're in Texas, Integrity Rehab and Clean,
Yes.
Jeanice owns that. And if you're in Austin, your Personal Best Physical Therapy, we offer pelvic floor therapy for women.
Good.
And then also, what else was I going to say? We have a few, there was one other thing I wanted to share. I can't remember.
Well, while you're thinking about that, something that we've started, so basically about a year ago, I started with my team creating some content that can help people that may not be our patients or that might be our patients connect better with the pelvic floor. So we made a video called Pelvic Floor Basics. And so
Okay.
that's the video we send it out in advance to our pelvic floor patients so that they can watch it before their first appointment to understand a little bit more about the pelvic floor, because the first visit, how
Is
much
tough.
of the time,
It's tough.
you know,
right.
most of the time people have no idea what to expect, and they probably don't know what their pelvic floor muscles are, and so just giving them it gives them some knowledge, and knowledge is power and comfort.
Yeah, that's so great. And BTW, her Instagram is awesome. So
it's
if you're
so fun,
not
and I'm
following
personally managing that one. So like DM me or
Yes.
I'm still learning things. This is our first video on.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But it's been overwhelming, the amount of support and feedback. Just last week, so we're trying to basically we've designed the videos. I know we're going too long.
It's okay.
Okay, so we've designed the videos to be able to have voiceover narration and to be able to share in other languages. Okay,
Yes.
so right now the first video, Pelvic Floor Basics, we have it in English, Spanish, and Korean. And just last week, I connected with a PT that is willing to help translate it into Dutch. I connected with a PT that is willing to translate it into Persian, which is in Iran. I'm working with people in Brazil to be able to translate it into Portuguese. Italian, there's a midwife in Italy that wants to help make it into Italian. And so there's just more and more languages. I mean, look at how many languages there are.
Yeah.
So we're looking for people that want to help spread it into your language and help us connect with people. Oh, and Hindi. In India.
Yes.
So this
I've got
weekend,
someone for you.
oh, you do?
I
Good.
do.
Well, I have also
Great.
some connections that we're making. So,
So
it's
fabulous.
super exciting.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.